They say that arrogance is the downfall of great men. But when absolute arrogance is handed to a 26-year-old with a trust fund, a leased Porsche, and a brand new CEO title he got exclusively from his father, the downfall isn't just a tragedy, it's a multi-million-dollar comedy. My name is Alex. For 8 years, I was the lead systems architect for Vanguard Logistics, a massive supply chain management firm that moved hundreds of millions of dollars worth of commercial freight across the country every single day. If a massive retail chain needed thousands of pallets of electronics delivered before Black Friday, our company made it happen. But Vanguard didn't run on trucks or warehouses or the brilliant business strategies of upper management. Vanguard ran on a piece of custom database software called the Atlas Protocol. And Vanguard ran on Atlas for one very simple reason. I built it from scratch. Atlas was a beautiful, terrifying beast. It was a highly customized, incredibly complex web of legacy code, automated APIs, and real-time GPS tracking. It was efficient, but it was also temperamental. It required a very specific manual encryption handshake every Monday morning at 6 a.m. to sync our servers with our high-security clients. I was the only person in the company who fully understood the architecture. I didn't just maintain the system, I was the central nervous system of the entire company. The old CEO, the man who actually built the company, knew this. He paid me a very handsome salary of $160,000 a year, gave me my own office, and mostly left me alone to do my dark magic in peace. But then, the old CEO decided to retire. And instead of promoting our competent VP of operations, he handed the keys to the kingdom to his son, Carter. Carter was a walking, breathing stereotype of the word Nepo-Baby. He was 26, wore custom-tailored Italian suits that were too tight, and constantly threw around empty corporate buzzwords like synergy, lean optimization, and paradigm shifts. He had an MBA from a private university where his father had conveniently donated a library. Carter didn't know the first thing about logistics, trucking, or databases. He thought IT was just the guys who fix the Wi-Fi. His immediate goal as the new CEO was to prove to his father that he was a ruthless, efficient businessman. He wanted to slash operational costs to artificially boost his first quarterly profit report. And as he looked at the payroll spreadsheet with his completely uneducated eyes, he zeroed in on the biggest number in the IT department: my salary. The confrontation happened on a Friday at 4:45 p.m. I was quietly packing up my laptop, ready to head home for the weekend, when Carter's executive assistant knocked on my door and told me the CEO wanted to see me. I walked into his massive, glass-walled corner office. Carter didn't look up from his phone. He was aggressively typing an email, sitting in his father's oversized leather chair like a little boy playing dress-up. "Have a seat, Alex," he said dismissively, still looking at his screen. I sat down. "What can I do for you, Carter?" He finally put the phone down, clasping his manicured hands together, and gave me a fake, predatory smile. "Alex, Vanguard is entering a new phase of hyper-efficiency. We are trimming the fat. I've been reviewing your compensation package, and quite frankly, paying a computer guy $160,000 a year is an unacceptable drain on our resources. I've just signed a contract with a remote, outsourced IT firm based in Southeast Asia. They can do your job for $35,000 a year, so as of this moment, your position is being eliminated." I didn't blink. I just stared at him, my brain struggling to process the sheer, unadulterated stupidity of what he had just said. "Carter," I said slowly, trying to keep my voice steady. "With all due respect, you cannot outsource the Atlas Protocol. It's not off-the-shelf software. It's a proprietary, deeply customized infrastructure. The offshore team won't have the administrative clearances, and more importantly, they don't know the Monday morning encryption handshake. If that server doesn't authenticate by 6 a.m. on Monday, the entire logistics network will lock down for security purposes. No trucks will move, no manifests will print. Our clients will blind fire penalty clauses at us." Carter rolled his eyes, a loud, obnoxious sigh escaping his lips. He leaned back in his chair, looking at me like I was a desperate beggar. "Alex, please," Carter scoffed, waving his hand dismissively. "Stop making up fake tech nerd jargon to try and save your job. Encryption handshakes? Really? It's a database. You just click a few buttons and make sure the screen stays green. The new team will figure it out over the weekend. I need your security badge, your company laptop, and I need you out of the building by 5 o'clock. He slid a single piece of paper across his mahogany desk. It was a formal termination notice. I looked at the paper. Then I looked at the smug, arrogant 26-year-old who was about to accidentally detonate a nuclear bomb inside his own father's company. I could have argued. I could have gone over his head and called his father. I could have begged him to listen to reason. But then I read the specific phrasing of the termination notice. Effective immediately, Alex Vance is stripped of all administrative access, duties, and responsibilities. He is explicitly forbidden from accessing Vanguard Logistics servers, physically or remotely, under penalty of corporate espionage laws. He wasn't just firing me, he was legally ordering me to let his company burn. In the corporate world, there is a beautiful, deeply satisfying concept known as malicious compliance. It means following a terrible order exactly to the letter, knowing full well it will result in absolute catastrophe for the person giving it. I didn't get mad. I didn't raise my voice. A cold, incredibly peaceful calm washed over me. "Okay, Carter," I said softly. I picked up his expensive Mont Blanc pen, signed my name at the bottom of the termination notice, and slid it back to him. I took my security badge off my belt and placed it gently on the desk next to the document. "Just to be absolutely clear," I said, pointing to the paper, "by signing this, I am legally no longer authorized to touch your servers. I am completely separated from Vanguard Logistics." "That is correct," Carter smirked, clearly thrilled that I wasn't putting up a fight. "You are officially a civilian. Goodbye, Alex." "Goodbye, Carter," I smiled, a genuine, terrifying smile that he was far too inexperienced to understand. "I sincerely hope you have a wonderful weekend." I walked out of his office, grabbed my personal jacket, and left the building at exactly 5 p.m. I didn't go home and cry. I went home, opened a new browser tab, and officially registered a private IT consulting LLC. Then, I booked a weekend trip to a luxury cabin in the mountains, poured myself a glass of expensive bourbon, and waited for Monday morning. I knew exactly what was coming. I had just handed a toddler a loaded shotgun, and the timer was ticking down to 0. The beauty of automated, high-security digital infrastructure is that it has absolutely no concept of human ego. It doesn't care whose name is on the CEO's door, it doesn't care about hyper-efficiency, and it certainly doesn't care about Carter's custom-tailored Italian suits. It only cares about the code. On Monday morning, I woke up at 5:30 a.m. in a breathtaking cedar-lined cabin overlooking a misty mountain lake. I brewed a pot of premium dark roast coffee, wrapped myself in a thick wool blanket, and sat on the deck watching the sunrise. I had my personal laptop open on the wooden table, not logged into Vanguard systems because that would be illegal, but simply displaying a public global internet traffic map. I watched the clock on my screen tick closer to the absolute deadline: 5:58 a.m., 5:59 a.m., 6 a.m. Right at that exact second, 300 miles away, the Atlas protocol executed its mandatory weekly security check. The system pinged the administrative terminal, demanding the manual encryption handshake to authenticate the external client AP is, and unlock the logistics database for the week. According to Carter's brilliant cost-saving plan, his new $35,000 offshore IT team was supposed to handle this. But they didn't have the administrative master keys. They didn't even know what the Atlas protocol was. They thought they were just hired to reset passwords and manage email servers. When the system received no handshake, it did exactly what I had programmed it to do in the event of an unauthorized breach. It initiated a catastrophic Level 1 lockdown. I couldn't see it happening, but after 8 years of building the company's digital veins, I knew exactly what was unfolding. Across 5 different states, Vanguard Logistics violently ground to a halt. The automated loading dock doors at our massive distribution centers froze shut. The barcode scanners stopped reading. The GPS routing software for a fleet of 800 commercial trucks went completely black. Worst of all, the client-facing portals, the dashboards where multi-billion-dollar retail giants tracked their freight, crashed, displaying a glaring critical error, database offline. Vanguard wasn't just delayed, they were paralyzed. And in the world of high-stakes corporate logistics, paralysis means bleeding cash at a terrifying exponential rate. Our contracts had aggressive service level agreement, SLA penalty clauses. For every hour a client's freight was delayed due to system negligence, Vanguard was automatically fined tens of thousands of dollars. My phone rang for the first time at exactly 6:14 a.m. The caller ID flashed, Carter, CEO. I took a slow, deeply satisfying sip of my coffee, savoring the rich, roasted flavor, and let it go to voicemail. It rang again at 6:16 a.m., then 6:18 a.m., then 6:20 a.m. By 7 a.m., my phone had practically melted. I had 47 missed calls. The voicemails and text messages were a beautiful, real-time documentation of an arrogant man's psychological collapse. Text at 6:15 a.m. Alex, the system is down. The offshore guys say they are locked out. Fix this immediately. Still arrogant, still commanding. Text at 6:35 a.m. Alex, answer your damn phone. The warehouses are locked. Trucks aren't moving. This isn't funny. Anger masking rising panic. Text at 7:10. BM, Alex, Target and Walmart just called my cell. Their portals are down. We are getting hit with $100,000 in penalty clauses every hour. Pick up the phone. Full-blown terror. Text at 7:45 a.m. Alex, please, I am begging you. The offshore team completely crashed the servers trying to force a reboot. I don't know what to do. Please answer. Absolute submission. At exactly 8 a.m., the official start of the corporate workday, the phone rang for the 53rd time. I cleared my throat, put on my most polite professional customer service voice, and swiped to answer. Hello, this is Alex, I said smoothly. Alex, oh my God! Carter practically shrieked into the receiver. He sounded like he was hyperventilating. Through the phone, I could hear the absolute chaos of the executive floor in the background. Phones ringing off the hook, people yelling, pure corporate anarchy. Alex, you have to get online right now. The Atlas system is completely locked. The offshore team tried to bypass the firewall and triggered some kind of internal wipe protocol. We have hundreds of trucks sitting idle. We are losing millions. Wow, Carter, that sounds like a catastrophic structural failure, I replied, my voice completely calm, the sound of the mountain birds chirping softly in the background of my end of the line. It sounds like someone failed to execute the Monday morning encryption handshake. Yes, that's it, Carter screamed desperately. Whatever that is, just do it. Log in right now and fix it. I am officially ordering you to fix this. I took another sip of my coffee. Carter, I said gently, as if explaining basic arithmetic to a toddler. I can't do that. What do you mean you can't do that? He roared. I am the CEO. I am giving you a directive. Carter, do you remember the termination document you had me sign at 4:45 p.m. on Friday? I asked, enunciating every single word perfectly. The one you drafted? It explicitly states that I am stripped of all administrative access and explicitly forbidden from accessing Vanguard Logistics servers under penalty of corporate espionage laws. If I log into your system right now, I would be committing a federal cybercrime. I am just a civilian. I no longer work for Vanguard Logistics. Dead silence fell over the line. For 5 agonizing seconds, the only sound was Carter's ragged, panicked breathing as the reality of his own legal paperwork violently suffocated him. He had built the very cage he was now trapped in. Alex, Carter whispered, his voice cracking, the Nepo-Baby arrogance completely stripped away. "They're going to crucify me. My dad is going to kill me. Please, how do we fix this?" "Well," I smiled, pulling out a fresh legal pad and a pen. "It's a good thing you called, because as of Friday evening, I'm the founder and lead architect of Apex Infrastructure Consulting, LLC, and I would be more than happy to discuss taking Vanguard Logistics on as an emergency client." There was a long, heavy pause on the phone. I could practically hear the gears grinding in Carter's inexperienced, panicked brain as he tried to process what was happening. He had spent his entire life believing that wealth and a title meant people simply had to obey him. He was currently learning a brutal lesson in leverage. "Consulting?" Carter sputtered, his voice trembling. "Alex, stop playing games. Just tell me how to bypass the lockdown. I'll authorize a bonus. I'll give you 10 grand right now. Just log in." "Carter, you're not listening," I replied, taking a bite of a fresh croissant. "I am not an employee. I cannot accept a bonus. I am the CEO of Apex Infrastructure Consulting, and Vanguard Logistics is currently experiencing a catastrophic Tier 1 critical infrastructure failure. If you want my firm to intervene, we need to establish a business-to-business contract. Otherwise, I'm going to go for a hike, and you can let your $35,000 offshore team try to rebuild an encrypted logistics matrix from scratch. How much are the SLA penalties costing you per hour right now?" $150,000, Carter choked out, "and it's compounding. Target is threatening to pull their entire fourth quarter contract." "Fascinating," I said dryly. "Then my rates will seem incredibly reasonable. Do you have a pen, Carter?" Yes, I have a pen. Just tell me what you want," he pleaded. "My emergency zero-notice crisis intervention rate is $5,000 an hour," I stated, my voice devoid of any emotion. $5,000 an hour? Carter screamed, his outrage momentarily overriding his panic. "Are you out of your mind? That's extortion. You only made 160 grand a year." "I was an employee making 160 grand a year. Now I am an independent contractor saving a multi-billion-dollar company from a fatal systemic collapse," I corrected him smoothly. "It's not extortion, Carter. It's the free market." You wanted hyper-efficiency and lean optimization. This is what that costs. Furthermore, my firm requires a minimum retainer of 100 billable hours, paid fully up front. That's $500,000. I require a direct wire transfer to my LLC's corporate account. I will not type a single line of code until the funds have cleared." Carter gasped. $500,000? "Alex, I can't authorize a $500,000 vendor payout on the spot. The CFO will have my head. My father will kill me." "Your father built this company from a single delivery truck, Carter. He's going to kill you anyway when he finds out you crashed his empire to save a few pennies," I reminded him brutally. "You have authorization for vendor payments up to $1 million. I built the permissions hierarchy. I know exactly what you can approve. So you can wire me $500,000 right now, or you can explain to your father why Vanguard Logistics lost $10 million by Tuesday. The choice is entirely yours." In the background, I heard Carter's office door bang open. A woman's voice, probably the VP of operations, shouted, "Carter, the East Coast distribution hub just went dark. The drivers are abandoning the trucks. What the hell is going on?" That was the breaking point. The sheer, crushing weight of reality finally shattered the last remnants of the Nepo-Baby's ego. Okay, fine." Carter practically sobbed into the phone. "Send me the banking details. I'll authorize the wire right now. Just please, God, fix it." "Excellent decision, Carter. But there is one more thing," I added. "What else could you possibly want?" "Legal immunity," I said coldly. "Over the weekend, my lawyer drafted an emergency services contract. I am emailing it to you right now. It explicitly states that Apex Consulting is being hired to fix an administrative error caused directly by Vanguard's executive management. It states that Vanguard holds me completely harmless for the current outage, and it permanently overrides the termination NDA you made me sign on Friday. You are going to print it, sign it, stamp it with the corporate seal, and email it back to me. If you try to sue me after I fix this, that contract will get you laughed out of federal court. I hit send on my laptop. I see the email, Carter whispered, completely defeated. Print it, sign it, wire the money, I instructed. I'll wait. I put the phone on speaker, leaned back in my chair, and enjoyed the pristine mountain view. For the next 12 minutes, the only sounds I heard were the frantic tapping of Carter's keyboard, his heavy, panic-stricken breathing, and the muffled shouting of executives outside his office. Then, my laptop chimed. An encrypted email arrived from Carter's address containing the signed, sealed PDF of my contract. A moment later, my banking app pushed a glorious notification to my phone screen. Incoming wire transfer. Vanguard Logistics Corp. Amount $500,000. Status cleared. He had actually done it. He had paid me more than 3 years of my salary in a single transaction, just to fix a problem he created. I picked up the phone. I received the contract and the retainer, Carter. Apex Consulting is officially on the clock. Fix it, Alex. I'm begging you. Fix it now, he pleaded. Give me 15 minutes, I replied. I didn't need 15 minutes. I needed exactly 90 seconds. I opened a secure terminal, tunneled through the back door I had built for extreme emergencies, bypassed the firewall the offshore team had completely botched, and executed a custom script. I typed in the 32-character alphanumeric encryption key that only existed in my head. I hit enter. The terminal cascaded with lines of green code. The Atlas protocol woke up, recognized its master, and immediately began re-authenticating the APIs. Across the country, warehouse doors unlocked, scanners beeped, GPS monitors lit up, the logistical heart of Vanguard started beating again. I picked up the phone. Carter, check your dashboard. It's green, Carter breathed, his voice weak with relief. The trucks are moving. Target's portal is back online. Oh my God, you did it! I fulfilled my contract, I corrected him. However, the offshore team deeply corrupted your secondary databases when they tried to force a reboot. The system is running, but it's fragile. It's going to take me at least 2 weeks of remote work to completely clean up the mess they made. Good thing you prepaid for 100 hours. Carter let out a long, exhausted sigh. Just fix everything. Please. I will. Have a nice Monday, Carter. I hung up the phone. I had won. I had $500,000 sitting in my bank account, a bulletproof legal contract, and the absolute godlike control over Vanguard's systems. But the most satisfying part wasn't the money. The most satisfying part was knowing that the story was far from over. Because Carter had just wired $500,000 of corporate funds to a vendor without his father's approval. And his father, the ruthless founder of the company, was about to return from his golf trip on Tuesday morning to review the damage. Tuesday morning arrived, and while I was enjoying a peaceful hike around the mountain lake, Vanguard Logistics was enduring the corporate equivalent of an atomic blast. The founder and former CEO, Richard Vance, a terrifying old-school businessman who built the company with calloused hands and ruthless ambition, had returned from his retirement golf trip in Florida. He had checked his phone at the airport and seen the apocalyptic notifications, the millions lost in SLA penalties, the angry voicemails from the CEOs of Target and Walmart, the complete collapse of the logistics network. By 9 a.m., Richard wasn't just in the building. He was a hurricane tearing through the executive floor. I know exactly what happened because the VP of Operations, a woman who had always respected my work and hated Carter's nepotism, called me from the safety of her car during her lunch break to give me the play-by-play. According to her, Richard kicked the heavy glass door of Carter's corner office so hard it shattered the hinges. He didn't ask what happened. He had already pulled the server logs and the financial reports. He marched up to his son's desk, slammed a thick stack of printed papers onto the mahogany wood, and unleashed a level of fury that made the executives in the hallway physically flinch. "You fired the lead architect to save $100,000, and you crashed the entire company?" Richard roared, his face purple with rage. "You arrogant, stupid child! You cost us $4 million in penalties in 3 hours." Carter, trembling in his custom suit, tried to defend himself. "Dad, the offshore team was supposed to—" "I don't give a damn about an offshore team," Richard screamed, cutting him off. "I left you with a perfect machine, and you broke it on your first week because you thought you were smarter than the man who built it." Then Richard slammed the final piece of paper onto the desk. It was the wire transfer confirmation. "And this?" Richard demanded, pointing a shaking finger at the document. $500,000? You wired $500,000 to a third-party consulting firm without board approval? Who the hell is Apex Consulting?" It's Alex," Carter whimpered, shrinking back in his chair. "He formed an LLC. He wouldn't turn the servers back on unless I paid him the emergency rate. He made me sign a contract." For a moment, the VP of Operations told me Richard Vance went completely silent. The sheer, brilliant audacity of my malicious compliance washed over the hardened businessman. He looked at the ironclad contract I had forced Carter to sign, securing my legal immunity and my exorbitant fee. Richard didn't look angry at me. He looked disgusted with his son. "He played you," Richard said, his voice dropping to a low, lethal whisper. "You fired him, and he legally extorted you for 5 times his salary to fix your mistake. He outsmarted you in less than 48 hours. Richard stepped back from the desk. "Get out of my chair," he ordered. "Dad, I can fix this. Get out of my chair, Carter," Richard repeated, his voice cold and final. "You are not the CEO. You are not an executive. You are an embarrassment. You are fired, effective immediately. Security will pack your desk. I am taking control of this company again before you burn it to the ground." Carter was publicly escorted out of the building by the very security guards he had tried to order around just days prior. The Nepo-Baby era at Vanguard Logistics lasted exactly 7 days. At 2 p.m., my phone rang. It was Richard Vance. I answered it, sitting on the porch of my cabin. "Hello, Richard. How was the golf trip?" "Cut the crap, Alex," Richard grunted, though I could hear a begrudging note of respect in his gruff voice. "That was a hell of a stunt you pulled. You squeezed my idiot son for $500,000. "I fulfilled a legal B2B contract to restore a crashed server," I corrected him smoothly. "I simply charged market rate for emergency, zero-notice crisis intervention." Richard actually chuckled. Yeah, listen to me. The board wants you back. We need you to untangle the mess the offshore team made and secure the Atlas protocol. I'll double your old salary. $320,000 a year, full benefits, and a dedicated team under you. Just come back." I looked out at the peaceful mountain lake. I thought about the stress, the late nights, and the fact that I was currently holding all the cards. "I appreciate the offer, Richard," I said calmly. "But I'm afraid Apex Infrastructure Consulting is not looking for full-time employment. We are an independent firm. However, I am willing to keep Vanguard Logistics on a monthly retainer for continuous maintenance and architectural oversight." "How much?" Richard sighed, knowing he was trapped. $80,000 a month, I stated. That was nearly $1 million a year. And I work entirely remotely. There was a long pause on the line. Richard was doing the math. He knew he was overpaying, but he also knew that the alternative was letting his company's digital heart stop beating again. I was the only surgeon who knew the patient. "Send the new contract to legal," Richard finally growled. "You win, kid." I hung up the phone and took a deep breath of the crisp mountain air. In the span of a single weekend, I went from a fired computer guy to a millionaire CEO of my own consulting firm, working remotely, and charging my former employer nearly $1 million a year for the privilege of keeping their company alive. Carter is currently unemployed, cut off from his trust fund, and trying to launch a failed crypto startup using his dad's name. They say arrogance is the downfall of great men. But for me, Carter's arrogance was the greatest financial windfall of my life. Sometimes, the most nuclear revenge you can ever take is simply smiling, nodding, and following a stupid order exactly to the letter.